Thanks everyone for joining this investor webinar today. We'll be featuring Galileo Mining through its Managing Director, Mr. Brad Underwood, who will be giving a presentation today on the exciting and significant announcement made yesterday regarding the palladium platinum discovery at its 100% owned Norseman project. You will have the opportunity to ask questions, and please do that by submitting those via the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. We know there'll be a lot of questions, so bear with us. We'll get through them as quickly as we can. I will also say that Brad has experienced some minor technical issues due to the rain affecting the internet in his office. So if we do drop out, please be assured that we'll be straight back. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brad Underwood, the Managing Director of Galileo Mining, who will now take you through a short presentation and then open the session to question and answers. Brad, over to you.
Great, thanks David, and appreciate everyone who's listening in today. I know there are a variety of people, from those who are new to this story to those who have been supporting us since we listed 4 years ago. So my plan for this presentation is to give a very brief summary overview of the company, get into the Callisto discovery, and then finish off with a couple of comments about the other work we've got going on at Norseman and also in the Phrasal Range. So we can go to the next slide. And the next slide after that. So a couple of our key messages. We're very well supported. Our major shareholders, Mark Creasy and IGO. We have high value nickel, palladium and cobalt to nickel targets. And I think we've demonstrated some of that value with the discovery that we've made. Very importantly, it's an early discovery market valuation. So there's a lot of potential upside as the discovery progresses, and we are highly leveraged to further success. Very importantly, we are also well funded with $8 million at the end of the last quarter. Next slide, please. That's our corporate snapshot, and with the trading yesterday, we finished at 63 cents, and I think last time I checked the market, we are holding steady around that price. So a very quick value creation on the back of a discovery, and I can say the value creation has been fast, but the effort and time that has gone into that area is significant. We've been listed for 4 years, and even before that time, we have been working on the project. So it is a really significant step up in the value of the Norseman project based on a long period of hard work and a little bit of luck. Next slide, please. That's our board. Myself as a geologist, we have Noel O'Brien as a metallurgist. And that's very important when we are talking about palladium, platinum discoveries, which are very rare in Australia. Noel has spent over 30 years in South Africa and has extensive experience on the metallurgy of these types of deposits. So if we are successful in developing a resource, we are very well staffed to progress that through scoping and feasibility work. And then we have Matt White, who's our accountant and CFO. Next slide, please. That's an overview of our project locations. One of the reasons we like operating in this area is the amount of infrastructure. So West Australia is a great place for mining, and in particular, the Goldfields region, Kalgoorlie, down to Norseman, there are a large number of mines. There's a huge amount of infrastructure. There's a gas pipeline, railway, there's a small town of Norseman, there's a water pipeline, and all of the infrastructure that is needed for the development of a mine. And of course, it is a very pro-mining friendly jurisdiction. We also have our projects in the Phrasal Range, which we are working on as well, but we'll stick with the Norseman story at the moment. Next slide, please. And the next slide. We have just under 300 square kilometres of prospective ground right next door to Norseman. We have been, I mentioned before, working in this area a long time. There's a lot of different prospectivity in this ground, and the palladium and platinum sniffs we've had over the last 10 years have finally translated into a discovery. And we talk about the discovery because it is a mineralized system that looks to be capable of hosting economic grades of palladium and platinum. We've put down 6 drill holes, so we believe that is a genuine discovery. And the next steps for us are to identify how big a resource exists at that location and all the other factors that go into a prospective mining operation. So an excellent start for us. And if we can go to the next slide, we'll get into some of those details. So you'll see on the right-hand side of the slide is a section which shows the discovery intersection. 33 meters at 2 grams per ton, 3E, which is palladium, platinum plus gold. Most of that being palladium. And then that is associated with 0.32% copper and 0.3% nickel. Within that, we have a higher grade section right in the central part of the mineralization, 6 meters at 2.69 grams per ton. And then at the base, we have another increase in mineralization, 1 meter at 3 grams per ton. And that's the end of the assayed interval for that drill hole. We completed 6 drill holes at this prospect. We released last week the geological results of that drilling, and we identified sulfide in the drilling. We prioritized NRC 266 with the 33-meter interval, and we've released the results of that entire 33-meter interval. So around that, there is a broader intersection, and you'll see from the final meter that there is an uptick in palladium. So we are not sure whether that's a lower mineralized unit continues within the sulfide zone that we've identified, but the overall sulfide zone is 55 meters thick at that location. It very much appears that it is increasing to the east. So every drill hole we've put down on that section and on the section to the north, the abundance of sulfides are increasing downhole, and the thickness of the sulfide mineralization is also increasing. So it makes the zone to the east of our current drilling highly prospective, and that is the location for our planned drilling that's coming up, which we intend to start next month. We go to the next slide, please. This is a plan view of the drilling we've done to date. All drill holes are oriented to the west. We've put in 6 drill holes on 2 lines. And as I mentioned before, if we look at each line, the hole on the eastern end of each line has the greater abundance of sulfides and is a better prospective target. So it's our strong belief that everything is increasing to the east, and that is the target area for the next round of drilling. What's very important to understand, though, is the potential scale of these targets. We have over 5 kilometers of prospective strike length. And when I say that, I mean that there is 5 kilometers of host rock that is untested. We know that from the magnetics and from the air core drilling we've done in the area. This is a target that we hit. It starts at about 120 meters below surface. It's flat line and doesn't outcrop anywhere. So when we talk about the prospectivity, what we can say is that we know the host ultramafic sill extends for 5 kilometers to the north. We know that at the southern end of that sill, we have a mineralized unit. We don't know how far along the base of that prospective strike length the mineralization occurs, and we'll have to drill test to find out, but there is a very large prospective strike length, and we will be drill testing that. Of these 6 drill holes we've completed, we have received partial assays from 266, which is what we visually believe to be the best of the holes. But each of the other 5 holes also has mineralization. Those assays are expected in approximately 5 to 6 weeks, and we are working with the lab to improve that turnaround. As well as that, we have sent the samples from the mineralized intersection we released yesterday. We've sent that back to the lab for rhodium and other PGE analysis. We've asked for that to be on the priority list, so hopefully we'll get those rhodium results back in 2 weeks. And if it does turn out there is rhodium associated with the palladium, platinum, copper, and nickel, then that will add a significant level of prospectivity to the area and to the ultimate potential value of the project. Next slide, please. At this stage, we think that there is some similarities in the mineralization we're observing and those seen on the northern limb of the Bushveld complex. And similarities, I mean that we are seeing a disseminated style of mineralization. It's not a vein style or necessarily associated with chromatite. It's a disseminated and broad zones of mineralization. To date, we've intersected sulfides up to 5%. And when we compare that with the Plat Reef deposits in South Africa, the disseminated mineralization there is between 1 and 25%, but massive sulfide is very rare. So for us, it's very much about the disseminated sulfide style of mineralization. And we are doing downhole EM surveying. However, we don't anticipate a strong response from that downhole in relation to the sulfide, unless there is massive sulfide associated. But at this stage, we think that the occurrence of this style of mineralization is disseminated. We've seen maximum 5%. And I think as we do more drilling, we hope that we'll perhaps hit maybe 10 to 20% sulfides in some zones as well. That would be a fantastic result for us. And as I mentioned before, the sulfides appear to be increasing to the east and to the north, and we'll be drill testing those. The plan at this stage is to go back and start drilling in about mid-June. We have a drill contractor locked in. We have the approvals to drill up to 30 more holes already, and we are submitting more POWs for diamond drilling in the anticipation that the next round of drilling, RC drilling, is successful. It's also on a granted mine lease, so it does make it a little easier if we progress through the resource drilling and onto development. So there are a lot of positive factors about this discovery, and the next round of drilling could add significant value to the project and, of course, the company. Next slide, please. I'll briefly mention some of the other work we've been doing in Norseman to give you an idea of the overall prospectivity of the region. We also have the Mission Sill and Jimbalana Dike prospects. And after air core drilling those last year, we have numerous intersections of palladium, platinum, nickel, and copper over very extensive strike lengths. So these prospects are at an earlier stage than Callisto, but we'll be working these up over the coming year as well. And the potential for more discoveries at these earlier stage prospects is significant. Next slide, please. Some of the results we've had to date, you'll see there's a large amount of nickel and copper over significant thicknesses, but this is all air core drilling. So the ultimate target is within fresh rock, and it's sulfide mineralization that we're chasing. We use air core drilling as a first stage indicator of the potential at depth, and then we apply geophysics and other targeting techniques, come back with an RC rig and drill at depth to see what we've got. So we've got a large number of EM targets and untested geochemical targets that we'll be working on later in the year. Next slide, please. This is another example of more results we've had from the Mission Sill prospect. 8 meters at 1.4 grams palladium plus platinum, 4 meters at 1.7 grams. There's a huge number of results. We made over 5 releases in March about these prospects. It's all early stage air core drilling with a huge amount of RC drilling and follow-up work required, which we will be doing after the follow-up of the discovery drilling. So a lot of work to come. We're well funded. We anticipate being able to do all of this work with the funding that we have. Next slide, please. These are the next steps at Norseman. We're waiting for the assays from the current RC program. We'll be doing downhole EM surveying. Regardless of the results of that downhole EM, we will be undertaking the next round of drilling, essentially on a grid pattern, just 50 meters by 50 meters, nothing too fancy. We're just going to start drilling it out and see how far it goes. We'll be doing petrography, and that's to get a better technical understanding of the type of mineralization that we have and the potential size of the deposits. Up to 5,000 meters of RC drilling due to start mid-June. And then, of course, the other prospects we have coming up later in the year at the Jimbalana and Mission Sill prospects. Next slide, please. We also have a nickel and cobalt laterite resource. However, this is unrelated to the sulfides. So the main focus of the company is now on the sulfide discoveries that we have made, and we'll continue to work that up. The laterite is unrelated to the sulfide, and at this stage, we'll be focusing exclusively on the high-value sulfide targets that we have. Next slide, please. I'll give a quick update on the Phrasal Range project because this is still of importance to us, and we have a number of good targets here as well. This is a joint venture with the Creasy Group, and I should mention the Norseman project is 100% owned by Galileo, and the Phrasal Range is a joint venture. Next slide, please. The good analogy between the Phrasal Range and the Thompson Belt in Canada, it demonstrates the potential in the area. Next slide, please. We've intercepted sulfide-bearing intrusions in the Phrasal Range, which is the key to making discoveries in that area. We haven't hit economic grades yet, but it's showing us that we are using the right methodologies to identify the rocks with potential. And at this stage, if we go to the next slide, the slide after, we have 2 EM targets that have yet to be drill tested at the Green Moon and Easterly prospects. You'll see on the map there that's on the northeast or top right corner. And these are a long strike from 2 other prospects we've previously tested and identified sulfides at. So this is an area with sulfide-bearing intrusions, and we'll be drill testing these targets later in the year as well. And at the same time, we are building up more targets with continuous ground EM surveying, looking to identify new discoveries in the Phrasal Range. We are very much an exploration company focused on making discoveries. We've had a discovery at Norseman now. We might be ambitious or perhaps optimistic, but we feel that there are more discoveries to be made than just one, and we'll keep working towards making as many discoveries as possible. Next slide, please. So summary slide, we are well funded and well supported. I think we've demonstrated the prospectivity at Norseman, and everyone knows the prospectivity at the Phrasal Range with the very high value Nova mine that is operating there. We have an early discovery valuation. If the discovery pans out into a large scale resource, I think we'll see a lot of upside associated with that. We are a very active explorer. We've got a highly experienced management and team, and we are focused on high demand metals, nickel, copper, cobalt, palladium, and platinum. And hopefully some rhodium if we're able to identify that in the drilling. Thanks for listening, and please, if you have any questions, send them through to David.
Thanks, Brad. A great presentation. And as I think you and I spoke only a few days ago about the Galileo journey, so to speak, and it's all about systematic exploration and just following the systems to do the work to get the results, and you've achieved that with a significant result yesterday, and hopefully many more to come. Just touching on rhodium, and you're going back to resample for rhodium. For the benefit of those watching, why is that so important?
It's a very high value metal. Similar to palladium, it is used in pollution reduction controls. And when I say high value, last year it peaked at US $27,000 per ounce. So it's a very high value metal. It's almost always a byproduct of either nickel and copper mining or palladium mining. So it'll be the icing on the cake. If we've got the palladium grades to support a mine and we have rhodium with it, then it's just an outstanding byproduct to be producing if we're able to identify it and all the other factors that go into resource development. So a very high value metal.
And when you're talking about the prospective length of Callisto, where does it look like it's going, and where do you think the real value is going to come from?
Well, I mentioned before that we do have 5 kilometers of strike, and we can tell that from the magnetics. So it's the ultramafic sill, which is the host rock, which is at the base of that unit is the target for mineralization. So we've drilled right at the very southern edge of that 5 kilometer strike. It looks like it's increasing in grade to the east and over 5 kilometers of strike length to the north based on the magnetics and based on the shallow air core drilling we've done as well. So we have a reasonable idea of where the host rock goes. And now the job is to go back with an RC rig and to test the base of that host rock where we've identified mineralization and chase it along strike.
How hard was it to find something to compare it to?
There's not a lot of palladium and platinum mines globally. A lot of the production is concentrated in South Africa. So that's the natural place to look for a similar style of mineralization. The southern part of the bushveld is, in fact, it appears to my knowledge, quite different from the northern limb of the bushveld. So it's the northern limb of the bushveld, the Plat Reef deposit, that we have a similar type of mineralization, certainly not identical, but it's a rough indicator of what we might expect to encounter.
Now, you have compared the find to the South African Plat Reef deposit, as you say. Does it compare at all to what Chalice is doing at Julimar?
There's always similarities between the host rock. So we're dealing with an ultramafic rock as well. When we look at the style of mineralization, yes, we have the same types of metals, but it's the style of mineralization, how it occurs. I think, in fact, I'm sure the discovery hole at Chalice, which is at Julimar, which is an outstanding prospect, was a massive sulfide intercept. So from the early stage work we've done, we think it'll be unlikely for us to have massive sulfide. This is more about a very high grade disseminated sulfide style of mineralization.
Now we've got some cracking technical questions coming through, so I'm going to put them to you as best I can, and
all right.
Wood's thrown a couple of crackers at me, so I'm just going to put them straight through to you. What's the expected true width of the mineralization? At the moment, you've shown a long section, not a cross section. Do you have an idea of width?
Yeah, look, this is really quite complicated. We actually think that's probably a cross section rather than a long section. So a long strike would be to the north, the cross will be east-west. The section we've displayed is directly east-west. The true width is probably very not much reduced from the intercept, and that's because where we've hit it, the mineralization is flat-lying, and we say that based on the underlying marker sediment. So where we hit that marker sediment, we can get a rough approximation of the dip. It looks like it's dipping 5 to 10 degrees to the east. But look, a lot of those elements are still yet to be worked out, and it's how the mineralization occurs. The geometry of the mineralization within the host rock has yet to be determined. However, at this stage, it looks like perhaps the true width might be, of the intersections we have, might be 30 meters rather than about the 33 downhole intercept.
Now, I'm going to group a couple of questions here because they are similar in nature and they relate to drilling. So when is drilling recommencing? And just to reiterate the point you made earlier, but when is drilling recommencing at this project? And what do you think the next 6 to 12 months look like from a drilling perspective here?
We've planned to recommence drilling in mid-June. So the earliest we could recommence would be in 2 weeks because we need to clear more pads and get it all ready. We have the drillers under contract, so it's about when they're available. If they can turn up earlier, that'll be fantastic, but it'll be 2 weeks minimum, most likely mid-June. And over the next 6 to 12 months, it really depends on results. So we have anywhere, probably we'll end up doing 4,000 to 5,000 meters of RC drilling in the next round. We'll put in 10 to 20 drill holes. We'll have a good look at the prospectivity to the east and to the north. And if that drill campaign is successful, then we anticipate going directly into a resource drill out phase. So we just won't stop. We will just keep drilling. We're submitting the POWs now with the anticipation that the next round of drilling will be successful, so that by the time the end of the next round of drilling occurs, we will have enough program of works, which is the approvals from the Mines Department here in Australia. We'll have enough approvals just to keep drilling until we find out the ultimate size of what we have.
And in terms of the relationship between this find and the laterite deposit that already exists, do you see any relationship?
No, so completely different processes of formation. The laterite is a near surface weathering product, which is completely independent of the sulfide mineralization at depth. We're talking about fresh rock sulfide that's never been weathered. It starts at about 120 meters deep, and it's never seen daylight. It doesn't outcrop anywhere. It's flat line, relatively flat line where we've intersected it, and there's no relationship with the overlying laterite.
Okay, another cracking technical question. So I'm going to put it to you as written. Is the Callisto mineralisation a layered intrusion? And beyond disseminated sulfide mineralisation style, what other geological features indicate a plant reef style?
Yeah, so that is a good question. It's definitely a layered intrusion. It's too early to give you the exact descriptions of the whorlites, the leuserlites, and even the prototype proxenite is still a little bit early to differentiate. The geologists have had a good go at differentiating the prototypes from proxenites, but a greater and more detailed categorization has yet to occur. And what was the second part of the question?
It was, let me bring it up.
So that's the layered intrusion.
Yeah, so layered intrusion and beyond disseminated sulfide mineralisation style, what other geological features indicate a Plat reef style?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. It's that the scale is probably the next similarity, but the biggest similarity is in the style of mineralisation. And we've yet to determine, based on the geology, because we haven't had a chance to do it, exactly where this deposit style might fit into the overall categorization. So the very early stage is Plat reef that it looks most similar to, and we'll determine that as we get more data and information.
And in terms of this drill hole, how far is it from the tenement boundary?
So we're about 200 meters to the south is the tenement boundary. The magnetics implies that it is running, looks to be stronger to the east and running 5 kilometers to the north. So why we drilled this particular location is we were drawn in based on an EM target, but the EM target is related to the underlying sediment. So we strongly believe, and based on the air core drilling we've done and the magnetics, that it is to the east and to the north. So we'll be chasing that up as we work on the project.
I think I can almost see Keith Good writing his research report at the moment based on the questions he's firing through. When or in what year were the apparent historic NT-RC drill holes shown in the section drilled?
Oh, good question. That would be 2016, so just before listing. And at that stage, the palladium price from memory was maybe $400 an ounce. So a lot can change with the value of these metals. And that's why we've revisited the project last year.
And just to remind everyone, obviously the company's fully funded, so the drillers are all contracted, and it's there's going to be no shortage of news flow from the drill bit over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. The news flow we've got coming up over the next month is all based around the assays we expect to receive over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Once we do the downhole EM surveys, we'll release the results of those. But as I mentioned before, we're already quite set in our targeting methodology. But the downhole EM might give us an indication of which way are we getting a stronger signal. And so we'll make that release. And also back to the earlier question about the categorization of this style of mineralization, when we get the petrography results back and other indications of what we're dealing with, we'll release those as well. So a lot of technical information to follow. And of course, the drilling results have been of most interest to investors.
And maybe a final question, will there be any additional ground geophysical surveys planned for Callisto given its disseminated style, maybe IP, for example? Yeah,
we could consider it, or we definitely consider it, but at this stage, we're just focused on the drilling. We've got a discovery intersection. We have a fairly good idea of which way it's running through the earth, and we're high risk by nature. We're an exploration company. We're just going to go out and drill it.
Well, a fantastic discovery that's come about due to, as I said, a very thorough and well-planned exploration program that's occurred over a long period of time. So this isn't an instant hit. This has been building for some time, and those who followed the story have known the company's focus in regards to this and how it's got to this point. But certainly has lit up the market and excited the market, but a lot of news flow to come. a lot more activity planned, not just on this project, but the Fraser Range joint venture as well. Well funded, a strong technical focus. Exciting times ahead, I think, for Galileo and its shareholders. Brad, thanks for your time, and we look forward to following your progress with interest.
Great, and thanks to everyone who tuned in to listen.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.